Hello chess lovers, welcome to the new video about Prague Chess Masters. We're going to be looking at the game between Abasov and Grandelius, two relatively young players. They're in their mid-20s, and let's see what happened. E4, C5, so we have a Sicilian, Knight C3, D6, and now F4, the so-called Grand Prix attack. I like this system. Sometimes I play it, but after g6, normal moves of the Grand Prix attack would be knight f3, or bishop b5, or bishop c4. But in this game, Abasov played d4. So this is a move that is completely out of this system. It doesn't really make sense if you're gonna go for this setup, unless you want to have a different kind of position which is not really typical of the Grand Prix attack. So we have something that I don't, not that I don't understand, but I haven't seen it ever. Probably it was played, but at least I haven't seen this before. So black took on d4, and white recaptured with his queen. So now queen is on d4, and from there it attacks the rook. Also, if ever black attacks the queen, white has the option of pinning the knight and keeping his queen in the center. So knight f6 was the reply, and after that white played knight f3. And as I mentioned, for every knight c6, as long as the king is on e8, can be answered with bishop b5, pinning the knight and avoiding the retreat of the queen. But black didn't go for that. He developed with bishop g7, and white showed his intentions with bishop d3. So after playing a move like this, he's probably not going to use the bishop for these ideas. So black castled, and white retreated his queen from a vulnerable square, because the bishop that was looking at the queen is now protected, and that means that the knight can make maybe some nasty jumps in the future. Alright, so black replied with knight bd7, and this is a very logical move. From d7, knight can go to c5 and attack the e4 pawn. If instead he would go to c6, then from c6 it's hard to get to c5 and put pressure on e4. Alright, next was h3. So as we have seen in some of the previous games, this move often controls the g4 square. For example, if white played bishop e3, then black could have replied with knight g4, attacking the queen and the bishop, forcing the exchange of this dark squared bishop, which is pretty important in this position since it covers a lot of dark squares in the white camp, and it can be used for aggressive plans against black. So h3 prevents all that and prepares bishop e3. Black continues with knight c5, putting more pressure on e4. Now white can go to e3 thanks to this h3 pawn that prevents knight g4. Black played b6 and white castled long. So we have kings on the opposite sides, which usually means that there is a good chance of mutual attacks. We'll see if that's going to happen in this game. Black exchanged on d3, and white recaptured with the rook. A developing move followed, and now we can see that there is a considerable amount of pressure against the e4 pawn. But white decided to deal with it by tactical means. So he played bishop d4 and set a little trap. If black were to take on e4, for example with knight e4, White could reply, knight takes c4, bishop takes e4, bishop g7, king g7, and now we see two pieces that can be attacked at the same time. Bishop d4 wins the game on the spot. So this variation shows that the e4 pawn is poisoned at the moment, or poisonous to be more precise. So black played b5. It makes sense. You start marching your pawn, open up a way for your queen to join the attack, and prepare some aggressive ideas. White gave some support to his e4 spot, and queen a5 followed. King b1 gave some extra protection to a2, because after b4 and when the knight moves, the a2 pawn becomes tender. Nonetheless, b4 followed, and now we have knight d5. And this position is actually not so good for white. Here, white was actually bluffing. So you can see knight and bishop and queen, they are all attacking this d5 knight, and it's only protected by one pawn. So by pure math, it should be possible to capture there. But let's examine how that would work out. Was it the right move or not? So let's start by taking with the knight, and white has no choice, and we have to take with the bishop, because the rook is looking here, so we don't want to put our queen there. And now bishop g7, and this is the moment. So here, if black takes king g7, then queen d4, again, the idea that we have seen before, wins the game. But black has an in-between move, so this is the problem piece. So we remove the piece from the square and gain a tempo. So we go bishop a2 check, and after king c1, now we take the bishop. And here, as far as I can see, black has an extra pawn, or even two extra pawns. Yeah, two extra pawns. The only problem here is, can white trap this bishop by playing b3? Because now the bishop cannot easily come out. But when you put the pawn from b2 to b3, the a3 square is weak, so you can give a check, and after king d1, a funny move, bishop b1. And now, yes, this bishop is not coming out, but it's attacking the c2 square. This can be supported with this queen, and it's not so easy for white pieces to capture this bishop. Not easy at all to do that. So this is the position where black would be again up 2 pawns, and probably he would get this bishop out with the help of his major pieces. Alright, so this variation shows that it was correct to take on d5, but Grandelius believed Abasov, and he obviously could not calculate all of this, and he decided not to take that pawn, so he was essentially bluffed successfully. And he played rook a e8, and now bishop f6 followed, and here Grandelius decided to go ef6. There was nothing wrong with taking with the bishop. He could have done that. For example, bishop f6, knight f6, ef6, rook d6, bishop e4, and white cannot take here. He should go on defense. Why is that? Because after rook f6, there is a wonderful move, b3. So opening up this attack on the rook, you're taking advantage of the spin and attacking 2 points. If white were to take, then a simple move like bishop f3 captures a piece and at the same time threatens here, and white is just lost here. So for that reason, he should not capture the f6 pawn, and this would be a perfectly fine position for black. So he could have taken on f6 with his bishop, but he chose to preserve the g7 bishop in hopes that in the future he might use it along this diagonal after a move like f6, f5. Okay, so after ef6, knight d2 followed, and we have the mentioned f5. So black sacrifices a pawn in a way, but open up the dark square bishop, and that bishop is looking at the white king, so some interesting possibilities might arise. Knight b3 followed, attacking the queen retreated, and now ef5. So you never want to take here. You don't want to do that, because then you will end up with 3 very strange pawns on the king side for black. So it was never his intention to recapture. So that's why I said that f6, f5 was a pawn sacrifice. Black continued with his attack, a5, obvious intentions, and now we have a bad move by white. So he played f6, which is not good. He should have prevented black from exchanging a pair of rooks, because white is the one that dominates with the heavy pieces. So he should have gone rook e d1 and put achieve a total control on the d file, and he would have a little bit better position here. But the point is, by playing f6, he allowed black to do something that he didn't do. So exchanging a pair of rooks would be ideal, and then taking on d5. And now, if you recapture, black is just going to recapture here, probably with the queen, sorry, and this battery will start to pay dividends. And if you take on g7, there is another in-between move, rook e8, attacking the queen and giving black time to save his d5 bishop on the next move once white deals with the threat to his queen. But okay, black didn't capitalize on this. Instead of capturing on e1, he captured immediately on f6. And now, after knight f6 check, queen f6, rook e d1. Rook ran away from the open e file, and there will be no trade of these two pieces. A4 was played. It looks scary. It looks scary with these two guys on a4 and b4, but actually white is in control. Rook took on d6, rook was interposed, an exchange happened, and here, I don't know, if I was black, I would always just take with the queen. Yeah, I'm a pawn down, but it's not easy to push these pawns as long as there are queens and rooks on the board. But Grandelius went for something else. He took with the pawn in hopes of opening his rook, I guess, and also giving his bishop a nice square here. But in reality, this was not a good decision, because after knight c5, the bishop is attacked. It had to move, and it did move to d5, but instead of moving it immediately, black again had a chance for in-between move, and that is a3, first to create some threats here, and then he should have moved his bishop. And in this position, even though white is better, still there are some problems. White will probably lose this pawn, and because you can never block like this, because then this pawn is going to drop. So probably. So the point is, he should have did that. But instead of that, he immediately moved the bishop, which gave white time to secure the f4 pawn. And now, anytime there is a threat to the b2 spot, white has the time to block with his queen, because the f4 pawn is safe. For example, a3, queen d4, this guy is safe on f4, and white is one pawn up, and probably he will be 2 pawns up once he captures on b4. For this reason, a3 was not played, but instead rook c8, but now white just captured on a4. Now the pawn count starts to increase in white's favor. Queen f5, putting pressure here, but white protects. And Okay, black regained the pawn, one of the pawns, but now b3 blunts this bishop, makes a square for the white king, and now white's king's position is secure. Also, there is a weakness on b4, and of course, black king is not safe at all. The only chance for black is to somehow use this diagonal or this row, but he can put only one heavy piece on the first row or rank, and the diagonal is very hard to occupy. Yeah, white has pretty good control of many squares there. So queen h1 followed, so king b2, and now if black could somehow magically transfer his rook to the first rank, it would be amazing, but he just can't do it. Try to find the way for this c8 rook to the first rank. It's very hard to find it. No, actually, it's impossible unless white lets black do that. So queen e4 followed. You see, this queen is trying to somehow sneak onto this diagonal, but it's not possible. It's just not possible. Knight c5 followed, attacking the queen. It retreated, and now queen d4, preventing the black queen from taking the important diagonal. So queen is the boss on d4. Often it can also produce threats or capture material. Queen g4 played, knight d7, and queen g3. I mean, you took the pawn, but this pawn is irrelevant. It's all about the black king. And knight f6, king f7, knight d5, exchanging the best black's piece, e d5, queen d5 check, and Abasov won the game here, and Niels Grandelius resigned. Why did he resign? In every variation he loses at least a rook, king g7, queen d7 check, double attacking, and we have many similar variations. For example, queen f6, queen d6, followed by the check from d7, or king e8, queen e6, attacking two pieces. This square is unavailable because of the rook. And one more variation, king f8, queen d6, king g8, queen e6, with a final double attack, winning crucial material. So, very interesting game. It started as a Grand Prix attack, but then it turned into something that I don't know how it is even called. Nonetheless, it was a good fight, and we learned the value of in-between moves, which were not played. Black had 3 chances to play in-between moves that would give him better chances, but he didn't do it, and in the end, we learned the value of the safety of the king. I hope you enjoyed the analysis. If you did, please do subscribe, like, comment, and share. Have a nice day, and see you again in the next video. Bye!